Państwu. We are going to talk about a perfect storm that is combined from three things. You know the movie with George Clooney about the storm? Huge storm? Something like that happening in sales as we speak. I must confess that I'm a 30-year-old dinosaur because I'm in sales for 12 years. So I have a proper context to tell you this story. So three things are changing, and those things are making life of an ordinary sales guy really, really hard. First of all, we are changing as customers. Our attention is flowing into different things than it went 10 years ago. We are, for example, watching less TV and more Netflix. How many of you have Netflix? Hands up. Exactly. What about Spotify or Tidal? Anyone? Yes, my crowd. How about both? The same hands, exactly. So you know that people who are kind of rich, and I'm sorry, but I consider you kind of affluent, because you had the money to pay for tickets. Or you are working in a company that invests in you, so they bought you tickets. Okay? But you're not only rich as Jan Kowalski or John Smith. You are also rich as a B2B decision maker who is in charge of making purchase decisions in your companies. So, as a sales guy, I know that it's getting harder to reach you through traditional channels, like TV and radio, but not only that. And let me tell you, it's not only the fact that you are special because you're so rich. No, you're also technically affluent. So you know how to, for example, install AdBlock. This is global AdBlock installation rates, right? And as you can see, the mobile one is growing faster, right? So these two things, the fact that you are fleeing from ad-supported media towards subscription and you are installing ad blocks like crazy, led Professor Scott Galloway to say that advertising is a tax on the poor and technologically illiterate. Harsh, but true. Who knows when and where this photo was took? What's this? Anyone? Yes, Artur Kurasiński. This is Plac Świętego Piotra, St. Peter's Platz, in 2005, when new pope is elected and he comes out to the balcony, right? Benedict XVI after John Paul II. As you can see, this guy is a trendsetter because he is not only taking place in a historical event that happens once in a lifetime, electing a new pope, but he also wants to have a picture of it while it happens. He's not only present, he also wants a memory. But he always wanted to have that. He just was enabled by technology to do it. He's the first one. He's a trendsetter. Because in 2013, just 8 years later, everyone had a good enough phone with a good enough camera to do it. So they not only were standing and taking a picture, but they were also watching. But this is a long time, like 8 years, right? But 3 years after, something changed. And we didn't want it to only take pictures, we wanted to be in the picture. Hillary Clinton with Donald Trump, right? We are changing more than you think as consumers, as people, and it's weird as hell. If you want to read something really, really weird, read interviews with people who sat 25 years in prison. All of them tell us that we're weird as hell, because we are doing this all the time. It's weird for them. But what's weirder than that is Uber. If you imagine that you would travel back in time to, for example, 2005, just after electing a new pope, and tell parents who are telling their children in 2005 two things. Don't enter strangers' cars, and don't talk to strangers on the internet. If you would tell them, travel back in time and tell them that Uber will IPO at $120 billion on market, and the app is taking strangers and asking them to drive a car so that we would enter them, and we consider it entirely safe and it's fine, they would lose their minds. We are changing, let me tell you that. And all of that leads to the fact that we are extremely busy. We perceive ourselves as busy because we don't have more. How many of you were not bored at all this year? Hands up. Yeah, pretty much. And you are not bored because you are watching smartphones every time when you have 7 seconds. So there is no good moment to call you. There is no good email to read. Can you imagine that spam would be read? No, not in 2019. That's why those techniques are less and less and less and less effective. Because we, as consumers, are changing. Second thing that is contributing to the storm is the fact that revenue-generating teams like marketing, like sales, and like customer success or customer service, if you prefer it, are specializing. In the old days, sales cycle looked like this. There was a sales guy, and that's it. A guy called you, tried to sell you. If he managed to sell you, then the same person serviced you, and that was it. Simple days, old days, good days. And then marketing came because we started to Google, and we started to read blogs, and we started to gain more context before talking to salespeople, right? That's what happened. That's how we make our purchases decisions right now. And now, default setting of any SaaS company you know, live chat, 24, HubSpot, Salesforce, you name it, looks like this. So salespeople had to shrink their responsibilities to 1/3 of what it used to be. But our compensation systems didn't shrink, so we're extremely expensive. So clients started to reach us late. Are there salespeople in the room? Hands up. A couple of you. For those of you who are brave enough, do an experiment. When you have your first interaction with a client, ask them, are they ready to buy? Like flat out, hello, are you ready to buy already? Some of them will be, I promise. I've tried that because they've made their research, they've checked their prices, they checked your competitors, and they chose to talk to you. They're half convinced or entirely convinced even. And even sometimes you have trials in your business, so you don't want to talk to a customer, you want to use the product, and if you like it, then you will buy it, maybe, right? So third thing, a technological progress, and this is an important one, because let me tell you, things are changing. When Lech Kaniuk joined iTaxi as COO and then CEO, he grew the revenue of the company by 47%. Spectacular, in 5 months. Great, great, great result. How do you think the employment of the sales team changed? Who will vote that he hired 50% more salespeople? Hands up. Almost no one, okay. Who votes that he hired 25% more salespeople? No one, okay. Who thinks that he has fired 25% of the salespeople? Nice, okay, some of you. And who thinks that he fired half of the sales team but still grown the revenue by 47%? I'm sorry, you are all wrong. They all got fired. True story. It's a myth that you have to have more salespeople to grow revenue. You don't. Sometimes you can have 0 salespeople and grow the revenue by 47% in 5 months. That happened 2 years ago. It was a while back. I might sound futuristic maybe, somewhat, but let me tell you, everything that I have shown you already happened. This is past, not the future. Anyone been to McDonald's lately? Yeah. When McDonald's announced that they will roll out their pilot program to 2,500 restaurants all around the world, their stock hit all-time high. So financial markets tell CEOs and C-level executives and the boards, we will reward you and increase your valuation if you will automate as many people out of the job as you can. That's the incentives. And let me tell you, by data, salespeople are spending only 35% of their time actually selling. The rest is travel, the rest is training, the rest is research. Imagine, if we would take that number to 70%, which is entirely possible, and I've done it in my career with salespeople in teams I've run, we would need only half of the salespeople we have currently. Half of the people will get out of job. The bottom half, that is selling not that much, right? So I've got only 6 tips for you what to do about the storm. First of all, get analytical. Really. Get analytical, start using CRMs, start using marketing automation, get familiar with Google Analytics. This will help. Math sells. It's not art, it's science. Second of all, read. This is my reading material. Year after year, I'm trying to read more than 40 books. It's about 300 right now for the last 5 years. And let me tell you, if you are reading 1 or 3 books a year right now, you will be out of the job in this decade. I'm sorry. Harsh, but true. If you are looking for good book recommendations, Goodreads, Bartosz Majewski, Google it. You will have good enough recommendations for the next 5 years of your reading. Then, help people from other teams. Are there marketing people in the room? Hands up. Yes, some of you. How many of you have not listened to a customer call this year? Hands up. Almost no one. Bravo. If you haven't listened to a sales call this year and you are in marketing, I think you should be fired. Sorry. You are out of touch with the customer. But salespeople who are not contributing to marketing should be fired as well. That's why I'm reading and writing and being out there, out here so much. Because I'm trying to help marketing of the company I run. Then, don't be reliant on just one country. This is fertility rate of CEE countries, and the black line is the line of trends that I have added. We have less and less babies, basically. This is what it's saying. Do you see a trend, maybe? Yeah, less and less babies? Not so many people have 3 babies anymore? Exactly. So you have to, if you think about your career in decades, as you should, actually, because I see this is a pretty young crowd. You are not retiring in 3 years, I think. If you're thinking about yourself and your careers in decades, then you should expose yourself to markets that are growing, not only GDP-wise, but also population-wise. More babies, more strollers, more minivans, more cars, more revenue to be made. 5, consider becoming a CEO or manager. I've been thinking about this stuff for years now, like 5 probably. And I've basically, on this thesis, I've decided that I have to learn to manage. So I became a manager 5 years ago, and then a CEO around 1.5 years ago. So I really consider that. Because it's really hard to automate a CEO. Really. If, however, you don't want to become a CEO or a manager, consider selling really, really expensive things to really, really wealthy people. If you are buying a diamond ring that is worth 500,000 zloty, you're probably not going to do it through e-commerce. You want to like the experience. The same with expensive cars, and so on and so on. Not many of you will be able to serve ultra-wealthy people. However, since our economies start to look like winner takes it all, with 1% and inequality and so on, it's really a good idea to have ultra-wealthy clients. So try that. That's 6th. To conclude, last 10 years were great for salespeople. It was awesome. The stock markets were high. The interest rates were low. Venture capitalists were funding startups like crazy, and we got along just fine. But 10 years without a crash is a really, really long time. And I'm no macroeconomist. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to crash tomorrow. No, I don't know when. I just know that it will. I don't know where. I just know it will somewhere do it. And once it will happen, you ought to be ready because those things will accelerate. Right now, it's kind of fine. So boards and C-level executives don't have to automate you. But if their sales will drop, they will start to have to automate you. Okay? And let me tell you, this is pretty scary stuff, okay? But crisis is not only a threat, it's also an opportunity. So let me finish with a great Chinese proverb. You should not build shelter. You should expose yourself to the wind of change and build a windmill. Thank you very much. Woo!